history. When I reflect on the preparation for this weekend, I was telling people up in D.C., hey, I'm going to North Carolina, I'm going home, we're having a family reunion, all that stuff. And I was proud to be able to tell folks that it's all these generations of the family come together, all these generations, all these branches. There are third cousins of mine that are here that I know, right? And people were like, you know those people? You know people that far? And I was like, yeah. And I think that is one of those common things in our family, right? We may not know every single person, but we know people across branches and across generations, and I think that is something that is truly a blessing. But this evening, I want to break up my remarks into three parts. I will not be before you long. First, the story of where this family began. Second, the story of the three branches represented at this reunion this year. And third, what does this all mean for us today? So where our family began. Our family begins in a small town outside of Columbia, South Carolina called Winsboro, where Frank Lightner and his wife, Daphne Thompson Lightner, married and started a family. Frank was an enslaved man born in 1847 and freed after the Civil War. Daphne was a free woman, and her father, Joseph Thompson, served in the South Carolina legislature during Reconstruction. The couple raised 13 children, 12 of whom reached adulthood. There were 9 sons, 3 daughters. Those 12 children built a legacy that now stretches across generations and fills this room. Although Frank was enslaved, he saw to it that his children would be educated and successful, as he himself was a carpenter after he was free. Among those 12 children were store owners, a cabinet builder, teachers, undertakers, and one son who died helping build the Panama Canal. All 3 of the girls were teachers, as Frank made sure his girls never had to cook, clean, or work for a white family, something that was very uncommon for the time. Several of the Lightner children made their way here to Raleigh, North Carolina, in many cases for educational opportunities. For example, Joseph graduated from Shaw University's medical school in 1898, and Calvin attended Shaw and subsequently started the Lightner Funeral Home of Rayford. The family's funeral home was the first for black people here in Raleigh. That family of 14, Frank, Daphne, and their 12 children, is the foundation of everything represented in this room today. And more than a century later, we are gathering because of what they built. So the branches represented here. Although descendants of only 3 of the 12 branches could be here this year, those are Joseph, Calvin, and Ethel. Each branch reflects something different about their parents' legacy. Joseph was a licensed medical doctor in South Carolina and in Virginia, as we discussed earlier. He lived in Portsmouth, Virginia, and it's said that he was the first black person in Portsmouth to own a car. He and his wife Mary had 2 children, Josephine and Evelyn, and they're the little children in his lap in the photo, the original photo that we saw at the center today. Evelyn was a teacher and the mother of Yvonne Williams, who you all met today, and she's here with her daughters, Allison and Leslie. Calvin and his wife, Mamie, have 4 children, Nicholas, Lawrence, Margaret, and Clarence. In addition to running the funeral home, Calvin was an architect and contractor. In fact, Calvin designed and oversaw the construction of the original edifice of this very church over there. We're in the fellowship hall. In addition, the original church he was over the construction of. His son Clarence served as the first black mayor of the city from 1973 to 1975, after serving 3 terms on the Raleigh City Council, and then went on to serve as a senator in the North Carolina General Assembly for a year. Some of Calvin Lightner's descendants are here with us this year. Deborah Lightner, Claire Lightner, and Asif Majid, who is today a representative in the North Carolina General Assembly. Ethel Lightner Young, the oldest of the 3 girls, married Walter and had 10 children. Geneva, Garnett, Catherine, Muriel, Lethea, Evelyn, Ruth, Walter, Eunice, and Gloria, or as we know her, DeLorean. Ethel came to Raleigh in 1935 with her 10 children, but for a very different reason. She had lost her husband in a tragic car accident outside of Rocky Mount, leaving her a single mother of 10 children in the middle of the Great Depression. She moved her family onto a farm about 10 minutes south of here that was next to her brother's land, where the Lightner Funeral Home Cemetery was and still is today. Ethel's oldest brother, John, left the grocery store he was running in Atlanta and came to Raleigh to help her with the monumental task of raising her 10 children. Later, those 10 would come to talk a lot about how integral their Uncle John was to helping them make it on that farm in what was just outside the city limits of Raleigh. Just about all of Ethel's 8 girls went to college. Again, a feat for the 1930s and 40s. The boys went on to the service and served in World War II, and all of them went on to raise families. They were teachers, nurses, police officers, caterers, business owners, and more. So what does this mean for all of us today? One Lightner was a physician, another built businesses, churches, civic institutions. Another overcame hardship to educate a generation of children and see to it that they were successful. But these are only 3 of the stories from our larger family. There are others that we don't know and don't have time to highlight, and plus everyone's ready to eat anyway. But the point is, we come from a remarkable lineage, and we should all be super proud of it. We all spent today meeting and greeting and learning about each other and running around filling out the sheet on whose fun fact belongs to whom, which we will go over later tonight. And it looked like we had fun doing it. So as we go back to our respective homes, I encourage you to reflect on the astonishing, incredible, unique legacy from which we come. I'll certainly be doing the same thing when I get back to DC. But we come from people who value education, service, perseverance, and faith. And the greatest tribute we can pay Frank and Daphne Lightner is not simply to remember their story, but to continue. At this time, I want to bring up Michael Young to lead us in a remembrance of our